everybody, and welcome to the Poke Report Super Bowl show. I am your host, Alex Dusky, and today I am joined by Asa Lucas and Jace Andrews. Guys, how are you doing back together at the desk?
The bromance is back on. Jace is here, and it's going to be a good show.
It's a magical feeling. It's a lot like Christmas morning. You have these presents ready to go. The eggnog is there. It's cold. It's fresh. I'm just happy to be here with Jace. It's been a long time.
All right, well, let's start off by kind of doing a wide recap of the NFL season before getting into today's Super Bowl. Asa, what do you think was the biggest surprise this season?
The Cincinnati Bengals. I think Joe Burrow, we all wanted to know how you're going to come back from an ACL tear. What's Cincinnati going to do? I wouldn't say it was a massive surprise that they got to the playoffs, but to knock off the Chiefs in Kansas City, that I'm still shocked by that.
And we'll get into more of the surprises that the Bengals achieved this season as we get later into the show. With every big surprise, there's always a biggest bust. Jace, what do you think was the biggest letdown this NFL season?
I'd have to say the Tennessee Titans, but I'm not going to fully blame it on them. Derrick Henry had to go out, early in the season, and unfortunately that really took them a peg down because he's one of their guys that not only is a jump starter for their offense, but sometimes is their only offense. And nothing against Ryan Tannehill, but there's a reason he was released by the Titans. And so the fact that they could not push to even past the first round of the playoff, getting that bye, and getting Derrick Henry back that week, it was just a letdown.
And to add on to his comment, if I may, I think another big letdown for a lot of our viewers kind of in this region was the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, they're always
When
a
are they
letdown.
not, though?
They're always a letdown, but I even kind of bought into the hype how they almost beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 1. I thought, okay, maybe this Dallas team can maybe they are them boys, but another heartbreaker. My condolences goes out to all Cowboys fans everywhere.
Stephen A. Smith is laughing in his chair right now about the Cowboys, so as he usually does.
My dad said that the Cowboys did what they do best every season and let their fans down once again. So I thought that was a really funny text to receive when watching those games. So I think for me, kind of something that I've really been following is this whole Tom Brady fake retirement, real retirement, and also the Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay potentially drama and Big Ben Roethlisberger's retirement as well. What are your thoughts on Big Ben leaving for sure and Aaron Rodgers potentially leaving?
Big Ben, he needed to go. As we saw in the playoffs, I mean, that offense was as bad as like if you put Jace and I out there in the NFL. Like I think we could have done as decent of a job.
We probably could.
With no college football experience. I feel bad. It was nice that he at least got to get his last win there at home in Pittsburgh. That was a good feeling, a nice thing to see as a fan. But I just needed to go. He was too old, and the organization needs to start building on a younger foundation.
What do you think Aaron Rodgers is for sure done with Green Bay?
I think so. With all the drama that's happening, and Green Bay does not have the cap space and the room to bring in a new depth of players that could help incentivize Aaron Rodgers to stay. So I definitely see him gone, and it seems like he's cut ties with Green Bay even last year.
Yeah. So Jace, being the long-term Patriots fan, I know you have a good following of Tom Brady. What were your thoughts on this whole breaking news? Brady's retiring. Actually, he's not. Actually, he is. Debacle.
That's the way Brady would retire. He's just an interesting guy in general. I have a hard time believing this was his full choice. I mean, he is one of the top players, and this year he led the league in passing yards by over 300 yards and retired. I mean, it's not unlike a Boston athlete to do that because David Ortiz, at top of his game, then retired, but it's similar.
Yeah, and I think, kind of what you were adding on to Asa, when I was a little kid, we had Drew Brees, we had Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and now all that's left is Aaron Rodgers, basically. And so I think it's time agreeing that we kind of see this new wave of quarterbacks, which we have really seen this year kind of with these rookies, especially with Joe Burrow stepping up. So moving into today's game, in Super Bowl 56, the Cincinnati Bengals are taking on the Los Angeles Rams in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. The Bengals have not been to a Super Bowl since 1988, and the Rams haven't been since 2019 in Super Bowl 53. There's a lot of history into this game and with the specific players, one of that being that this is the first time in Super Bowl history that both teams entered the playoffs as number 4 seeds. Asa, what do you expect to see out of this game today?
There's two things I expect to see. Number one, this either going to be a massive blowout, and the Rams defense is just going to have a heyday on a very battered and inexperienced Cincinnati Bengals team, or we're going to get the game of the year in the Super Bowl. It's going to be another one of these field goal, close games, back and forth kind of offense firepowers that I see Joe Burrow starting to do a little bit of Patrick Mahomes and scrambling out of the pocket to help his team out. But, I mean, as a Bengals fan, we can kind of get into it, what you should expect. I'd be nervous the whole game. I don't. This is not a guaranteed win for you, and even for Rams fans out there, this isn't a guaranteed win. Yes, on paper, fully you do have a lot of advantages with the defense and with coaching, but however, I don't know what the Cincinnati Bengals just have some sort of magic this year that helps NFL teams advance.
So kind of talking onto that, how did the Bengals get to this point in the season? They finished 10-7 in the regular season, and they had a whole lot of field goals, kind of like what you were saying, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. Fun fact about that is not only did the Bengals sell out of kicker Evan McPherson jerseys indefinitely, but they also sold out of the blank customizable jerseys that people would then put Evan McPherson's name on. Looking at the Rams, they finished 12-5 in the regular season. They won the NFC West for the first time since 2018, and in that they defeated the defending Super Bowl champions Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Jace, what are you thinking we'll see out of this game today?
I'm going to see an offensive game. I mean, I know that the Rams defense is all this hype, Aaron Donald, Von Miller. You got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, all these guys, you got it covered on each level. You have a lineman, you got a linebacker, you got a safety. But the problem is this defense has been overrated all year. There's been teams that have just gone off of it. I mean, if you look at the 49ers game going back to the last game of the season, the Rams were up 17-0 and then blew the game and went to overtime and lost. And that's really the reason they got the 4th seed instead of the 3. And it's just hard to predict how a defense is going to perform in a Super Bowl. They have the talent, but they haven't showed it all year. And when you talk about the Bengals offense and the Rams offense compared to the Rams defense and the Bengals defense, I would expect a higher scoring game. And I'm kind of right there with you, Asa. I almost expect a blowout in some way. I hope that's not what we see, but on top of the fact that every game in the playoffs up until this point has been just an amazing game,
such a good game,
we're due for a bad game. I mean, I'm not going to say Super Bowl 51 level where it's the Seahawks absolutely getting demolished by Peyton Manning and the Broncos.
Or the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl where they lost the Patriots 13-3 in the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see at least a combined total of 50 points. And I'm going to say that's at least minimum.
Do we know what the over-under is for today's game?
I don't know. I would say it's probably in the 55 area.
All right. Well, we'll come back and we'll get that information for you guys. We'll look it up. But we're going to throw it to the other side of the studio to Brock Baldridge with some Super Bowl history. Take it away, Brock.
All right, thank you, Alex. And greetings, everyone. I'm Brock Baldridge. Hopefully you are having a Super Sunday as kickoff for Super Bowl 56 will begin shortly. The Cincinnati Bengals will be taking on the Los Angeles Rams. There have been 56 of these Super Bowls, and where nearly 1/3 of the country stops to watch the big game. And it got me to thinking, what's the story behind one of the biggest games in all of pro sports? Let's go through it as I break down the history of the Super Bowl. Since 1920, all was well for the National Football League as they have played championship games to determine who was the winner of the league every year. But in 1960, a businessman by the name of Lamar Hunt had a dream of his own football league that could one day challenge the mighty NFL. Hunt founded the American Football League, which included 8 AFL franchises. For several years, the AFL and the NFL owners fought like cats and dogs to prove that their teams were more superior than the others. Eventually, all the years of fighting led to one point where both leagues decided to have a championship game of their own, and they would each play each other to determine which league had the better team. In 1966, the AFL and NFL agreed to this new concept, and they called it the AFL versus NFL World Championship Game. It would take place in Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It would be later known as Super Bowl I. Lamar Hunt jokingly called it Super Bowl I, and from there on out, the media fell in love with the name, and it's stuck ever since. In Super Bowl I, Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers defeated Lamar Hunt's AFL team, the Kansas City Chiefs, 35-10. It was a disappointing loss for the AFL, and the Packers would repeat as champions the following season, taking down the Oakland Raiders in Super Bowl II. Skeptics and sports writers thought the NFL was far too superior and that the AFL would never fit in. However, everything changed after the New York Jets shocked the world by defeating the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III, known as one of the biggest upsets in pro football history, proving that the AFL does in fact belong. The Kansas City Chiefs would then top the Minnesota Vikings the year after in Super Bowl IV, and from there on out, the NFL and the AFL merged into one league and to continue the Super Bowl tradition. After the death of Packers head coach Vince Lombardi, the NFL decided to make its sterling silver trophy made by Tiffany & Company after him, known as the Lombardi Trophy. Turning over to California Super Bowls. In fact, there have been 13 Super Bowls played in the state of California. This was the first Super Bowl in Los Angeles since 1993, where the Dallas Cowboys defeated the Buffalo Bills in the Rose Bowl in Super Bowl 27. The Los Angeles has now hosted 8 of the 56 Super Bowls, becoming the third city to host the most Super Bowls behind Miami and New Orleans. The Rams are looking to become the second team in NFL history to win the second Super Bowl in their home stadium. The Buccaneers did it last season. Rams head coach Sean McVay will become the youngest coach in NFL history to win the Super Bowl if the Rams win. If the Bengals win, head coach Zach Taylor will be the second youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl at age 38. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow would become the first player in NFL history to win a Heisman, National Championship trophy, and Super Bowl trophy if the Bengals win. Only 7 wildcard teams in Super Bowl history have won it all, and the 8th team will be this Sunday. That's all I have for now. Back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thank you, Brock. I did want to kind of touch on how, isn't it crazy that the Bucs were the first team in history to play in their home stadium in the Super Bowl, and now the Rams are doing it again just a year later. Do you guys think that there really is like a home field advantage per se?
What do you think, partner?
I don't know if there's necessarily a home field advantage, especially in the Tampa Bay one. I think that was, no offense to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of their fans are from New England. Sorry, Tom Brady. But with this one, it's going to be a little bit more that way because you're going to have a lot of Ram fans. And, we've seen the Rams do it. They try and sell out SoFi Stadium to the Rams fans. They did that with the 49ers the week before, and it didn't work out. So with the Bengals being their first time in the Super Bowl for a very long time.
They're traveling so well.
Exactly. That's why I think this will be an evenly matched place. Along with SoFi Stadium's indoors, it's nice, it's in California, it's a good place to travel for a trip. I feel like there will be an even amount, which is why there's not a home field advantage, because on top of it, the Bengals are the home team. So even if there was, they don't really get it because the biggest thing in the Super Bowl is the coin flip.
Right.
Yeah, being 3-0 on the road, and not only 3-0 on the road, but in outdoor stadiums. Yes, the Rams, all of their playoff games have been indoors and they've won, but just the way Joe Burrow's been playing. And like I said, if you can come out of Kansas City on the road in the playoffs and win, to me, that just speaks volumes about you can handle any environment at any situation anytime.
Well, and not to mention being down in that game for pretty much the entirety of the game and coming back to a team that you had to do the same thing to just 3 weeks prior. What he did with that team was incredible because he did it twice in the span of about 3 weeks against Patrick Mahomes, who is supposed to be this next Tom Brady.
All right, well, on that note, we are now going to send it over to Carson Melton for a kind of season recap of how everything turned out with fantasy football. Carson, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. Welcome back to the Super Bowl edition of the Fantasy Football Weekly Roundup. It's been a fun NFL season, and it's sadly coming to an end. But before we get to Super Bowl 56, let's go over our fantasy football awards from this past season. We'll start with the best overall player from this year. Basically, this is our fantasy MVP from this past season, the one guy who was essential to your team being a success. He had the highest average point total among all players and won the Triple Crown in receiving, leading the league in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Our fantasy MVP is Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Kupp was sensational, hauling in 16 tutties on 1,947 yards. He averaged almost 26 points per game in fantasy, easily the highest among all players. Kupp was the main guy for new Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Whenever Stafford needed help in a bind, Coop was the guy to get him out. If you had Cooper Kupp, you were almost guaranteed to, at minimum, get to your playoff semifinals in fantasy, if not win the whole thing. But with every MVP, there must also be a season bust. I want to highlight 2 players here because they were both major disappointments this season. Both are running backs who were hurt in 2020 and then both suffered injuries in 2021 and missed significant time. That would be Christian McCaffrey of the Carolina Panthers and Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants. Both guys were considered no doubt first-round picks coming into the season, but neither could live up to those expectations. Now, their fantasy value seems to be in serious doubt. I'll be back with more awards later, but for now, let's go back to the desk.
All right, thank you, Karsten. I know we're all excited to see your fantasy football awards as we all played fantasy football, and for me, it did not turn out well this season, so I'll need to listen to Karsten more next year, I guess. We're now going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll dive closer into the Bengals and Rams teams individually.
What is it about Oklahoma State?
This place is special.
Believe me, I know.
It's my home.
I've spent more of my life at OSU than away from it.
So here's what I can tell you.
There's just something about Oklahoma State.
We've had some pretty remarkable people pass through these walls.
People like Henry Ivan, Ed Gallagher,
Robin Ventura and Barry Sanders.
I could go on and on about our All-Americans
our national champions,
and our Hall of Famers.
You could say the people are what make this place special, and you'd be correct.
but it goes beyond the people.
There's something else about Stillwater that attracts greatness.
Maybe it's the hard work that all of us have put in during our time here to make something of ourselves.
Maybe it's the trials we've endured as a family.
We've been tested in ways that most people cannot understand.
Yet we never waver.
In who we are
and what we believe in.
We've proven we can win at the highest level.
But winning isn't the only reason why people choose Oklahoma State.
It's more than that.
Our fans don't just cheer for the Cowboys.
They are the Cowboys.
The culture here is bigger than all of us.
It means something to be a Cowboy.
It's the values OSU stands for.
The values of being loyal and true.
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 All right, welcome back to the Poke Report Super Bowl show. I'm Alex Dusky. We're going to start off this segment we're focusing on the Cincinnati Bengals. Just some general information about this franchise. It's their third season under Zach Taylor. This is their first winning season, first playoff appearance, and first AFC North title since 2015. And there's a lot that is happening on the field with the players that we've seen, but there's also a lot going behind with the coaching staff and executives. And the fun fact is Duke Tobin, he is the Bengals Director of Player Personnel. He was named the NFL Executive of the Year, and this is the first winner from the Bengals franchise. So congratulations to Duke Tobin for, he's kind of the reason that the Bengals have the team that they have today. Asa, what do you like about this Bengals offense as a whole?
The main thing that I like about it is Joe Burrow, and what I really like about Joe Burrow and how he leads this team is he has what Jace has grown up with his whole life. He has this kind of Tom Brady victor mentality. Now before, like in college at LSU, he won the national championship. He broke a lot of records. He absolutely dominated. But when I was watching, I was like, okay, yes, you won the national championship. Congratulations. Now welcome to the NFL, where things are about to get a lot harder. But he never lost that confidence and swagger, and he never allowed it to get over his head either. He just has this unspoken confidence when he walks into a room and he's with his teammates, like they are going to win no matter what, and they believe in him. They believe in the kind of the message that he has, and I really like that. And I think that's what's made Cincinnati a Super Bowl bound team is Joe Burrow is coming into this environment with confidence, and the team accepts that. You
kind of mentioned how historic of a season he had at LSU, and he's having a historic season with the Bengals as well. He is the first #1 overall draft pick to lead his team to a Super Bowl in one of his first 2 seasons, and he has a chance to be the first quarterback ever to win the Heisman, the national title, and a Super Bowl. This season, he moved ahead of Andy Dalton for most touchdown passes in a single game against the Chiefs, and he also broke the franchise record for most passing yards in a season, and he is now 5th on the NFL all-time list. Jace, another key part of this Bengals offense is Jamar Chase. What have you seen from him?
So Joe and Jamar are the basics of how two players can change the entire dynamic of a team. I mean, if you look at Joe last year, he played well up into his ACL tear. He was very, solid, never had anything crazy, but he played solid. Well, this year he got his wide receiver he wanted. He got his wide receiver back. They decided to skip out on Penei Sewell and went with Jamar, and it was the correct choice because Joe, now with his brand new ACL, has been running all over the field and getting it to Jamar. I mean, as a rookie, he is fourth in receiving yards behind these names: Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, his teammate actually in LSU, and Devontae Adams. I mean, that's a level unprecedented for a rookie, especially with no disrespect to the Bengals, but a Bengals type team.
He was also named the NFL Rookie of the Year.
Exactly. I mean, the Rookie of the Year. He's been one of the top rookies all year, and he proved it by playing with this poise and this stuff. But the big thing is, Joe and Jamar are the biggest reasons the Bengals are here because they make people around them better. If you look at Joe Mixon, he is the exact definition of that because this year he had his highest rushing yards in his career by far. He had 13 touchdowns this year, which is his highest by 5, and it's more than his last 2 seasons combined.
He's also third in the league for rushing yards this season.
And he's first in playoffs right now. He's the most rushing yards in I will say this has not been a rushing playoff. Joe Mixon is the leading rusher at 198. I'm pretty sure Derrick Henry got that in like 5 games this year. But it's just so crazy to me that the Bengals took one guy, Joe Burrow, and now they're probably the top contender for the next dynasty in football.
All right, now we got to stop looking at the donut and look at the donut hole. We got to talk about the major problem with the Bengals, and that is this offensive line.
Right.
A nightmare. Joe Burrow's been sacked 51 times this season.
It was, what was it, 9 against the Chiefs?
9 against the Titans.
Titans
sacked him 9 times.
And yet they still won. I think they said that this was that no player had ever been sacked more than 8 times and won a game, and he was sacked 9 times and still won that game.
I think when you look at it here, the reason that they're doing this, they could have drafted Penei Sewell. They could have. Because they have Tyler Boyd. They have T. Higgins. They had great receivers. But they wanted to get that X factor. And that X factor was the chemistry between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I'm going to say it for a long time, but the Bengals are LSU 2.0. And that's what they've kind of been this year. Because if I'm going to be honest, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are probably the top 2 reasons the Bengals are here. Their defense has played very outstanding for the level, but I think if you take away Joe Burrow, this team is not, I'd say playoff team. But from there on out, I really don't know how far they go.
That's generous.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe a wild card spot.
Exactly.
Let's kind of switch gears to talking about the Bengals defense. They have a pretty rough passing defense. They're 26th out of the 32 NFL teams. However, that passing defense did come up big in the game against the Chiefs, where Patrick Mahomes had never thrown an interception in a post game, and he threw 2 against the Bengals, and the second one came in overtime, which really gave the Bengals a chance to kick that field goal and win. The Bengals do, however, have the 5th best rushing defense in the league. What do you guys, I know we said that today's game against the Rams probably have a stronger defense as a whole, but what do you guys like from the Bengals defense?
Bengals defense, they do a very great job of second half adjustments. Mm-hmm. What I like is they're playing a lot of smart football. They realize they're not strong enough or fast enough that they can just bull rush you and manhandle you like the Titans did to the Bengals. However, they can make second half adjustments, and they made Patrick Mahomes look like a normal quarterback in the NFL. They took away his ability to just make some absolutely incredible plays, and then to force him to throw that interception in the beginning of overtime. That's something it's been a long time since we've seen an NFL defense be able to do to the Chiefs in Kansas City.
I'm going to piggyback onto that. The reason Patrick Mahomes looked like a normal quarterback was partially to Eli Apple. This man shut down Tyreek Hill in that second half. Literally shut down. The man had 78 yards in the game. 15 of those yards are in the second half. That's it. 15. He had a touchdown in the first. He was doing amazing, looking for another game like the Bills game where he had 2 touchdowns, over 100-plus yards of receiving. He looked like he was going to run away with this game, but Eli Apple shut them down. But 2 other names I'm going to look at are Sam Hubbard and Trey Henderson. They are probably the duo of the Bengals that need to be on point. They're going to be their left and right defensive ends, And they really need to put pressure on Stafford because Stafford has shown he'll throw interceptions if you put the pressure on him. And so they're going to be the big key points in this.
Some stats from the Bengals defense players. Trey Hendrickson, who you mentioned, leads the team with 14 sacks, and that's 5th in the league for the regular season. Logan Wilson has 4 interceptions last season, and Jesse Bates leads the team with 67 solo tackles. And with that, we are now going to throw it back over to Brock Baldridge to give us some more franchise history of the Bengals.
Thank you, Alex. Let's go over some history about the Cincinnati Bengals franchise. Since they became an NFL expansion team in 1970, they've only made the playoffs 15 times in franchise history. The Bengals ended the NFL's longest win drought as they defeated the Las Vegas Raiders earlier this month, getting their first win in the playoffs since 1991. The Bengals will now have a chance to win their first Super Bowl in franchise history, and this is only their 3rd appearance. The other 2 games that they lost were to the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 16 and 23. Both were one-score games and very close shootouts as vintage Joe Montana was rolling with his 49ers dynasty. If the Bengals win Super Bowl 56, Cincinnati will be the youngest team ever to win a Super Bowl, surpassing the 1993 Dallas Cowboys with the average age on their roster at 25 years old. The Bengals can now prove that they aren't the kids anymore and that the age is only a number, and they would become the 21st NFL franchise to win a Super Bowl. That's all on the Bengals for now. Alex, let's go back to you.
All right, thank you, Brock. And adding on to talking about the age of the Bengals, in today's game, just as a whole, the 2 head coaches are the youngest pair of Super Bowl head coaches in the game's history. So that's just kind of a fun fact with that. I wanted to ask you guys, do you think the Bengals are the underdog in this game? Because all season they've been pegged as the underdog, and they're finally saying, like, you know what, it is us. We are the team. We can do it. And do you think that they'll prove that today?
It's kind of how I'm looking at this is you got the Cincinnati Bengals, which are a little brother type of team in the NFL. They've always kind of been looked down upon. They struggle to make it to the promised land. But then I see the Los Angeles Rams, and Matthew Stafford's been a good quarterback. He's never had time though to grow and be kind of have this fruits of his work that he's been showing in Los Angeles. But then I look at the Rams, and they're also a team where I'm not like, oh man, this is like the Buccaneers or they're the Packers. No, this isn't a dominant kind of team. So you kind of got this middle child, Matthew Stafford, Los Angeles Rams that are good, but not this great, outstanding team. And then you got the little brothers. So, I mean, yes, they are underdogs, but a very respectable underdogs, which if they are able to win the Super Bowl tonight, it will not be a major shock to the world, but it will be a surprise.
I don't think they're underdogs. I mean, you can look at the stat line and say they're underdogs or not, whatever. But they've shown this postseason, they don't care what the stat line is. They don't care if they're favored by 5 or if they're predicted to lose by 14. They have the confidence of Tom Brady. They have the confidence that they're going to go in here, they're going to win it. I mean, if you ask even the kicker, Shooter McPherson, this man said, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship when he was going to kick the game-winning 42-yard field goal, or 52-yard field goal, excuse me.
He didn't say that when in the AFC Championship, though, that said we're going to go to the Super Bowl, did he?
He said he did say it. It was
speculation. There's
speculation. Joe never confirmed it, but
he didn't deny it.
Because if he said it and it wouldn't have happened, then someone would have had issues.
Well, that was the thing. And Tony Romo was like, okay, we got to watch him. What if he says it again? Because everybody knew the story. I mean, Joe Burrow, pretty purposely, he walks to Joe and walks past him as the 52-yard. I mean, 52 is not good, not easy, especially in the NFL. And he says, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship. I mean, what kind of confidence do you have to have as a kicker? He's 12 for 12 this postseason. Mm-hmm. He's probably the best rookie kicker we've seen in the past 10 years. It's really, really insane what he's doing.
And it kind of adds on to what Asa and I said at the top of the show is now that these older players are leaving the league, it gives way for these younger, more confident, maybe even just like more energetic players to kind of bring life back into the league. We're going to send it back over to Karsten for him to give out more of his fantasy football awards.
Thanks, Alex. Let's continue our look at the best fantasy players with our best quarterback. There are many players we could put here, including Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, and Patrick Mahomes, but one QB stood out above all the rest, and that was the new Buffalo Bills star, Josh Allen. Allen followed up his exceptional 2020 campaign with another season to remember. He led all quarterbacks in average points per game and total points, passing for over 4,400 yards and 36 touchdowns, while also scoring 6 more with his legs and 763 yards rushing. He was a problem all season for opposing defenses and easily earned the title of the best fantasy QB. Now we look at the best wide receiver. I could easily just give this to Cooper Kupp since he was the best overall player, but I want to mix it up a bit and give this award to another receiver. The obvious choice would be Davante Adams or Jamar Chase, and although my bias definitely leaned towards Justin Jefferson, I'm giving the award to San Francisco 49ers wideout Deebo Samuel. Deebo was a literal Swiss Army knife for the Niners. He totaled the 3rd highest average points per game and total points among receivers and did everything for San Fran outside of playing defense. He caught passes, returned some punts and kickoffs, and even took some handoffs out of the backfield. He did everything you could ask of him and more, becoming possibly the biggest weapon for the Niners en route to the NFC Championship game. No doubt he'll be a first-round pick for next season and a problem for defenses. Now it's back to Alex. Take it away.
Thank you, Karsten. We are now going to take our last commercial break of today's show before we get into the Rams and our predictions and all that fun stuff, so don't go away.
Because of Cass, I'm more confident behind the camera.
Because of Cass, I have found lifelong friends and amazing mentors.
Because of Cass, I will be able to teach English in Cambodia with the Peace Corps.
Because of Cass, I had the opportunity to intern on Capitol Hill.
Because of Cass, I got to sing at the Vatican.
Because of Cass, I was able to present my research and I won a scholarship for it.
Because of Cass, I miss Black OSU.
Because of Cass, I can help someone else find their voice.
Because of Cass, I'm able to not only have 1, but 2 internships for the summer lined up already.
Because of Cass, I am confident in leadership positions.
Because of Cass, I'm excited for my future and the opportunities I have within my major.
Because of Cass, I can do it, and so can you.
When everything is on the line, one person can change the game. One swing of the bat, one perfect pass, one leaping catch. In the most important moments, one play, one person can make the difference. This is your moment. Your opportunity to change the game for our student athletes. Will you sit on the sidelines? Or will you be a game changer? Join the posse today. Call 405-744-7301 or log on to okstateposse.com. Be a game changer.
I've had a lifetime of little sweet pieces of special. And I just want them to know I love them.
The Cancer Center at Stillwater Medical, the heart of cancer care.
All right, well, we are back here with the Poke Report Super Bowl show. Let's dive into looking at the Los Angeles Rams. Just some general information about them is that this is their first season since 2015 without Jared Goff. They traded for Matthew Stafford from the Lions. And Jace kind of hinted to this earlier in the show, but the Rams are kind of a misfit team. They have Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller, and Jalen Ramsey, who kind of made their name in the league with other teams. As I mentioned at the top of this show, this is the Rams' 5th Super Bowl appearance in history and the 2nd in the last 4 years. Aso, what's your view of the Rams as a whole?
You know, I really like what I like about the Rams is they do the little things correctly. And I know like week 18, the way they played against the 49ers was really sloppy. And they still gave Jimmy G last week a chance to take his team to the Super Bowl. Or not last week, but a few weeks ago.
Yep.
But I'm a big fan of Matthew Stafford. And I've even though I've been younger when I was watching him growing up, I still remember this game he went and he played against the Cleveland Browns, and he like fractured his arm, and he still came in the last game to throw a game-winning touchdown with like a fractured arm and a dislocated shoulder, which is incredible to me. So they're really tough, and I like Odell Beckham. He's now gotten this opportunity. This is a hungry team, like the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a hungry team. The only real difference that I see between them is just defensively, they're a lot more solid and aggressive.
We'll get into defense as a whole in a little bit, but Jace, what's just your general view of the Rams?
So they remind me a lot of last year's Bucs. I mean, if you look about it, last year's Bucs were a team of misfits. I mean, in Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Vita Vea, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, the only true Buccaneer player on that team that performed was Mike Evans, and he'd been there forever. So if you look at this team, it's kind of the same way. You got Matthew Stafford coming over from the Lions. You got Von Miller, who they traded for this year. I mean, there's only about a couple players who are there, and that's going to be Aaron Donald, who has been there since they were the St. Louis Rams. I mean, this team is exactly what you said, a team of misfits, but I would say they're a group of misfits that have worked so well together that they're not a misfit group anymore. They're a full collaborate team. Because if you look, Odell Beckham Jr. has had some of the greatest times playing football. I mean, he looks so much happier than he did in Cleveland at playing for the Rams. And that's the big thing is all these players who have come over from different teams, they look so much happier. They have the smile of Cooper Kupp all of a sudden being in Los Angeles.
So adding on to Ace's statements about Matthew Stafford, kind of comparing him to Joe Burrow in a bit is that he was also a former number 1 draft pick overall as well, And a fun fact is that the last time the Rams were with the Super Bowl, it was with Jared Goff, right? He was also a number 1 overall draft pick. So just kind of seeing a little, looking at Matthew Stafford's season, he has almost 5,000 total passing yards. He's second in the league with 41 passing touchdowns. When he was with the Lions from 2009 to 2020, he had only had 3 postseason appearances, and now this season he has 3 postseason wins.
That's crazy.
Looking at the receiver, Cooper Kupp, I know Karsten mentioned him a little bit, being the best fantasy player overall this season. And I know Jace had some issues with Cooper Kupp playing against him in fantasy. But Jace, what did you think about Kupp's performance as a whole?
So I will say this. There is nothing to not like about Cooper Kupp unless he beat you in fantasy like he did, to me. But he's just such a down-to-earth guy. I mean, a guy out of Eastern Washington who had to basically pave his own path. He has a walk-on to Eastern Washington. His now wife was working double jobs for him to stay at Eastern Washington, stay playing football. Wow. I mean, he's just a great guy. As much as I want to say, oh yeah, that fantasy, that really hurts, he's too good for you not to like. He deserves everything he's done this year, and he's just been an insane guy. I mean, he's the Triple Crown winner, which already makes him a top receiver for the next 3 years. You add on to that the last time he didn't have a touchdown, that was week 16 against Minnesota. You want to know what day it was? That was the day after Christmas. He's gone almost 2 months catching a touchdown in every game he's played at. I mean, he will be matched up with probably Eli Apple, which would be an interesting matchup because Eli all of a sudden has become one of the best cornerbacks for the Bengals, but he is such a down-to-earth guy. There's not much you can say about him, making him a bad person.
So looking at the Rams defense, they have 50 sacks on this season. Like we mentioned, Burrow was sacked 9 times alone against the Titans. Kind of comparing them to the Bengals, they also have a pretty rough passing defense. They're 22nd in the league, so a little bit better than the Bengals. But they have a strong rushing defense as well. They're 6th, so 1 step behind the Bengals. Asa, what do you like from the Rams defense?
I like how Aaron Donald approaches every game with just this strong intensity. And he has this extraordinary gift to bully offensive linemen. And that in the NFL, if you can get away with that manhandling like 300-pound men and 280-pound men that are like 6'5", that I mean the strength alone is really impressive. So what I like about this Rams defense is anyone will step up for them in case anyone goes down. And this is like another example, very efficient unit making great second half adjustments and making Jimmy G look like an average quarterback.
Jace, what are your thoughts on the Rams?
So there's 3 players I'm looking at, and I've talked about them earlier, and that's going to be Jalen Ramsey in the secondary, Von Miller as the linebacker, and then you have Aaron Donald at the line, which then produces, they have a guy at every level. But it just depends if they perform that way, because we've seen they're an up-and-down kind of team. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, he's played some great games, but he's also gotten burned a couple times. Aaron Donald has played some great games, but he's also just seems like sometimes he won't get to the quarterback, along with Von Miller, who was traded because he wasn't performing with the Broncos and is now doing pretty well at the Rams. It's just going to be how they perform during the game.
You know, there's a lot of questions in this game, how each team will perform. But, we've given our best analysis on that, and we'll give our predictions later on in the show. But for now, we're going to send it over to Brock one last time for some Rams history.
Thank you, Alex. Let's now go over the Los Angeles Rams franchise history. The LA Rams became a team in 1936 as the Cleveland Rams, but they moved to Los Angeles in 1946. They moved the franchise to St. Louis in 1994, where they won their one and only Super Bowl in 2000 when they were led by Kurt Warner and the greatest show on turf. It's the second Super Bowl appearance for Rams head coach Sean McVay as the Rams lost to the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 53. The Rams head coach Sean McVay has always had a strong coaching connection with Bengals head coach Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor was the Rams quarterback coach in 2018. Cincinnati was impressed and he became the head coach after the season. 3 years later, the two will meet once again and for the biggest prize in all of sports. In 2016, owner Stan Kroenke moved the team back to Los Angeles, where they're still looking for their second Super Bowl title, along with their $6 billion stadium being the home team. Rams quarterback Matt Stafford, what's at stake for him? He has not won a playoff game since he entered the league in 2007, and now he's already one game away becoming Super Bowl champion after these NFL playoffs has now won 3 straight games. His Hall of Fame status might result on whether or not Matt Stafford can win this game, and it will all come down to one game in SoFi Stadium. Now let's go to my predictions. Yes, I think the Rams are going to win this game 31-27. Back and forth I went. Rams are favored by 4.5 points at home. Cincy right now is the hot new flavor. Everybody's loving Joe Burrow. And one thing you have to remember here is that Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals won all their playoff games when it came down to the final drive. They beat the Raiders by a 1-score game. They beat the Chiefs and the Titans on the very last drive where the opposing quarterback turned the ball over and Cincy was able to win with a field goal. It's just hard in the NFL to repeat that 4 straight times. And being the away team at SoFi Stadium, I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think the Bengals will cover this game, but the Rams are going to win Super Bowl 56, and I think Matt Stafford's going to win his first ring. That's all I have for you today. Let's head back over to Alex on the desk for the last time.
Thank you, Brock. Before we get into Karsten and our predictions, I want to play a little guessing game with you guys both. So do you know where both teams originated?
Like where they're from?
Yes, when they were created, where?
Well, Brock just said the Rams came from Cleveland, so that's where the Rams came from. The Bengals, they're not from Cincinnati,
No.
so I'm gonna say I think they're gonna be the
Aren't also from Cleveland.
I think.
Well, my answer is just the state. So.
The state? Oh, okay. Well, not Ohio. I'd probably say for them, they're not the Oilers because that's Tennessee. I'm gonna go with.
Say New York. I'm gonna say New York. No, it's not right.
I'll go with Minnesota.
Both teams originated in Ohio.
Okay. Well,
she faked this out.
Faked it. Gotcha.
That's what because they have the stripes because it's like a it's a passive aggressive way of getting back at them for trading them out. Yeah.
Do you know what number each quarterback wears?
9.
Yep.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
That was a confident answer. We got this. Don't worry about that.
What position got hurt from each team in their conference championships? Bonus
Tight
points
end.
if you can name the players.
Tight end, C.J. Uzomah for the Bengals and Tyler Higbee for the Rams.
You're kind of falling behind, Asa.
I'm impressed.
He's you.
Hey.
I wish this was more college football-based questions.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sorry,
professional sports are my game. Don't worry.
Okay. How big was the deficit in each team's conference championship that they overcame? I'm just looking for a general answer.
17 points.
General answer.
17. 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
11 points. 11.
It was more than 11. It's around 3 touchdowns.
It was double digits, so you both got it right.
Okay.
What
was the specific one, though?
That's a safe.
Was there a specific number for each?
No,
Okay, it's just both double digits. Okay, gotcha.
Do you know which round their kickers were drafted in?
McPherson.
5th round. Wasn't McPherson a 5th round?
I was going to say 5th, yeah.
McPherson was 5th round.
Who's and then Matt Gay. I'm going to say he was the 7th round.
I'll say 6th.
They were both in the 5th round.
She's tricking us out. They're both the same here.
Which teams unveiled new uniforms this season?
The Bengals.
Yep.
So did the Rams.
Both
did.
Both did.
And this one, I don't know if you're going to get it based on...
Can I answer before? Both teams.
I was actually going to switch it up and say, which college does each team have a star receiver from?
Which college? LSU.
Yeah,
OBJ
LSU,
and Jamar Chase.
That one
OBJ, is that what you said?
Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, I thought you said LBJ, and I was like, that's
not Lyndon B. Johnson. I don't think he's out there throwing the rock around. I don't think that's working. No.
So that's my little guessing game. You guys did pretty well with that.
Well done.
What was the score?
I think it was tied.
Tied.
Even.
Yeah.
I guess I do have another fun fact for you guys. So obviously we're not trying to make it a Bengals heavy show, but since the Bengals have not been to the Super Bowl in so many years, there's just more information about them and teams and the city's doing more for them. So the Ohio governor temporarily renamed 3 state parks. And Jace, I know you already know the answer to these, so you're
I'll
not
let you
allowed.
try first.
You're gonna guess, okay? Burr Oak State Park in southeastern Ohio was renamed.
Burrow State Park.
Yes.
Good job.
Okay, this one you might not get it, but you can probably guess the player. Okay. Paint Creek State Park in southwestern Ohio.
This one doesn't give really a hint. This one's hard.
Think of like paint. Change paint to 1 letter.
What?
Let's.
I gotcha.
I'm gonna pass on this one.
It's the Evan McPherson Extra Point Creek State Park.
Oh man,
that's a very long name for a street. That's a very long
park.
name.
It's a park, not a street.
Sorry.
And then this one is just kind of because it worked out well. There's the Houston Wood State Park. Was renamed the Icky Wood State Park in honor of legendary Bengals.
Get that icky shuffle going.
So.
Come on, you want to do it with me?
I'll pass on that one, partner.
So I want to get back to something that Brock said was about the dynamic of Zach Taylor being an assistant coach to Sean McVay. What kind of dynamic do you think that creates in this Super Bowl?
There's probably a little bit of like an inferiority complex, I would say, and we've seen that with Nick Saban's assistants. Only one's been able, Kirby Smart,
right?
One of the two, yeah, to be able to beat Nick Saban. So it's always going to be harder because this is like your sensei, you know, your like the biggest mentor in your life, and trying to beat them, I'd say it puts a chip on your shoulder for sure.
I think it's going to be a friendly rivalry for the next couple of years. I mean, the Rams look to be good no matter what they do because, I mean, Sean McVay did it with Jared Goff getting there. I mean, that's a feat, especially seeing what he's done with the Lions. I mean, no, the Lions aren't a good team, but Jared Goff didn't really play well. So I think it's going to be a friendly rivalry, but I think the big thing is they're going to know each other. And so these plays are going to be similar. But I don't know which side that's going to work out to because it could result in more offensive-minded plays, or it could just be a Patriots and Rams Super Bowl where they both know what offensive plays they're running the entire time, and it ends up 13.
We don't want that,
3.
Jace. Don't speak that.
I hope not. And with these offenses, especially, I just find that so hard to like find that happen. But we don't really know how it's going to work out. I mean, it's such an odd dynamic.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to send it back over to Carson for his final awards of the fantasy season and his prediction.
Thanks, Alex. I'm back to give you the final awards for the 2021 fantasy season. We'll continue with the best defense from the season. Now, picking the best fantasy defense is always hard, but there were definitely 3 teams that were among the best. Now, New England did not have a great end to the season on defense, and neither did Dallas, but one team ended the season with higher point totals, and that team is the Buffalo Bills. Their defense ranked 2nd in total points and average points per game just behind the Cowboys, but I'm giving the nod to the Bills because of their better end to the season than Dallas. Next is the best running back. Now, I wanted to give the nod to Derrick Henry because even when he got injured in Week 8, he still led the league in average points. But over the course of the whole season, the best running back without a doubt was Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor. The second-year back out of Wisconsin started off kind of slow, but boy did he take off, leading the league with 18 touchdowns on 332 carries for 1,811 yards. Taylor had his breakout season for Indy. He was a key role in helping the Colts get 1 game away from the playoffs before ultimately falling short, but he showed that he is a major piece to that puzzle and could be a future MVP winner in the coming years. Now, our final award is for the best tight end, and this one was not as tough a decision as the other awards were. This choice is fairly simple. It's Baltimore Ravens tight end Mark Andrews. The only tight end to total over 300 fantasy points and average over 17.5 points per game, Andrews had a monster year in Baltimore. He ranked just outside the top 5 in receiving yards, which is a crazy stat line for a tight end in this day and age. There's no doubt that he made a huge impact for Baltimore on another team that just fell a game short of the playoffs. Much like Taylor, watch out for Andrews to have another monster season in 2022. Well, there you have it, our 2021 Fantasy Season Awards. It was a fantastic and fun season in the NFL filled with so many twists and turns you'd think part of it was scripted. But now the season comes to an end with Super Bowl 56 live from SoFi in LA. The Rams and Bengals will definitely play a great game tonight. And while all the signs point to the Rams winning this one at home, might I present to you a counter-argument? Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, Joe Burr, whatever you want to call him, Joey B is that dude. He and Jamar Chase might become the next all-time duo right up there with Montana and Rice, which is why I think the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl. I have Cincy pulling off the upset 27-21 over the Rams. For the last time this season, I'm Karsten Melton. Back to you, Alex.
All right, thank you, Carson. You know, we always got to get all of Joe Burrow's nicknames in there whenever anyone reference him. On that kind of lighthearted note, we're going to kind of recap our favorite games of the year. So, Asa, why don't you start us off with your favorite game of the year?
All right, I want to take our viewers back to a very special time in their lives. Let's go back to December 2021.
Good Taylor Swift song there, Back to December.
Okay. And the
surprise.
LA Chargers were so close to the playoffs, and they needed a miracle of events to occur for them to make the playoffs. They needed to win out, which they beat the Broncos, and they needed the Ravens to lose a game, and things were looking great. They were on the road, and they were going to play the Las Vegas Raiders. And now this game, I had multiple friends text me about this game. And when that normally happens, like non-sports media majors texting you about a game, that's how you know it's something good. And this was in the first ever Week 18 of the NFL. And this was a magical game where the Las Vegas Raiders were taking control. They were doing well. They were winning. You know, at the end of the first quarter, they were up 10-0. Then at halftime, it was 17-14. Things were looking interesting. Third quarter, things started now going towards the Raiders' way. They were up 20-14. And then they were up 29-14, 8:23 left to go in the fourth quarter. And you're asking yourself, there's no way. If I'm a Chargers fan, how can my team come back? What can Justin Herbert do, the 6'5" wonder boy? Well, let me tell you, he did something absolutely incredible. He led his team back, making over 5 fourth-down conversions on their drive to score a touchdown. Then they got the 2-point conversion with 4:28 left to go. They shut out the Raiders, get the ball back, and then Justin Herbert scores again to make it 29-29. Game is all tied up. Incredible. Absolutely phenomenal performance. Then you go into overtime, and that's where this mess of an event happened because the Chargers did everything right. All they needed to do was get a tie with the Raiders, and they would have gone to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we could be having a very different conversation right now.
Oh, yes.
So what ended up happening is the Raiders, they get the ball back, they drive, they have a 7-play drive, 2.5 minutes, they kick a field goal, they take the lead. Chargers then get the ball back. And if Herbert can lead his team down the road to victory and get a field goal, it's tied. You're going to the playoffs. It's great. But what ended up happening is they kick a field goal. It's now 32-32, 4.5 left to go. They kick the ball back to the Raiders, and the Raiders start driving down. But you don't see a lot of anticipation or nervousness because they want to keep the game tied. Well, right with less than 20 seconds left to go, Chargers call a timeout on a 3rd down. Raiders convert, and now they're angry, kick a field goal. They get the win, and the Chargers are kicked out of the playoffs. Heartbroken, all my Chargers fans out there. But that was a phenomenal game to watch, one of the highest watched games of the year.
Great. That was a great game. I remember watching that. Lots of back and forth, and it was just a really impressive run by the Chargers, but just ultimately fell up a little short. Jace, what was your favorite game of this year?
So before I go to mine, I will say the Raiders had every right to win that game, but the Chargers, they converted 6 fourth downs in that game. That's
Crazy.
the most ever. On top of which, you don't call a timeout when you're trying to tie. No, you don't. Anyway, I knew people would pick that game, so my favorite game of the year is going to go back early in the year, Week 6, Bills versus Titans. Derrick Henry in this game goes off 143
Hold on, I would just like
yards.
to say that Jace's fantasy quarterback was Josh Allen, and Jace's fantasy running back was Derrick Henry. So I'm sensing a little bias in this game pick of yours.
Says the Bengals fan on the Super Bowl show.
Whoa.
Hey, let's stay friendly here, partners. Okay.
So the Bills versus Titans, and Derrick Henry goes off 143 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 76-yard touchdown, which I will admit got me 14 fantasy points. So you got me on the nose. I will admit.
Thank you.
But this game thought to be the early contender for the preview of the AFC Championship game. We now know that wasn't right. But this game was just a back-and-forth game, not to mention the ending of it being Josh Allen going down at the goal line on a 4th and goal and then not kicking the field goal to tie the game. What a game. and such a good one in the early part of the year. I think that's got to be a top for game of the year.
Absolutely.
So I couldn't really pick just one favorite game, and I have a much briefer recap than them. But I would just say the entire NFL postseason. Started off with the Bills having the perfect game against the Packers in
Very safe answer, Alex. Very safe answer.
I would like to get into what I was going to say. The Bills had a perfect game against the Patriots in the first week, and then we had the Packers, the Titans, the Bucks all losing in the divisional round by field goals. And then, just the way that these two teams got to the Super Bowl could not have happened without this amazing postseason. And, I'm not nervous that we're going to have a bad Super Bowl today. I think we're going to have a great one, and I think it's going to kind of be maybe the game of the year, Maybe when we come back next fall for more football, we'll say that the Super Bowl was our favorite game of the year.
I hope so.
I really hope so.
My sister's making some homemade wings and ranch. I absolutely hope so.
Can I come over?
You're always welcome, Chase.
All right. Well, it is now the end of our show, so we're going to go over to our predictions. Asa, start us off.
Okay, well, I'm going against what I normally do. I like to stick with favorites, but however, in this game, because Joe Burrow has that Tom Brady, Mamba, Kobe Bryant mentality, I have the Bengals pulling off the upset, 30-27, and this is going to be the game that encapsulates what the 2021-2022 NFL season was all about. It's going to be a last-second field goal. Evan McPherson, congratulations. You're going to make YouTube Hall of Fame once again.
Jace, what's your prediction?
Based on the score predictions, I feel like we're going to have a lot of Shooter McPherson's last-second field goals. Mine's also that. Bengals are winning 27-24. Remember early in the show I said 50 points. They just get it with that total, 51. So just over. I'm going to say they're going to win because of a couple reasons. One, Joe Burrow is going to lead them down on a last-second drive after the Bengals defense stops Matthew Stafford on a 4th down from their own 40 out of field goal range area. Okay. I know I'm going kind of in-depth, but I feel like that was going to be what happens. And then I think he's probably McPherson's going to nail it, probably 38-yarder, and it'll be a walk-off field goal for the Bengals, and they'll run off into the sunset with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
All right. Well, I know that Jace kind of just outed me that I am a Bengals fan, but I have been a fan since I moved to Cincinnati in 2005, and I've loved them through it all. This is the first season that I've ever actually cried happy tears after a Bengals game instead of sad tears. So it's been a great season for the Bengals. So obviously, I do have them winning. However, if I felt that we couldn't win this game, I would have picked the Rams, and I say that truthfully. I have it a little bit higher score. I have it 35-28. I think that instead of a McPherson last-second field goal, we will see a Joe Burrow, maybe Jamar Chase, or even T. Higgins, Knoxville boy like myself. We'll see that connection in the end zone, trying to get that score just a little bit higher.
Well, and I will say, if there's anybody in this room that deserves a Super Bowl, it is Mrs. Dusky over here. Got that Bengals pride. She's had it forever. Unfortunately, Andy Dalton couldn't be here for her.
Hold on. What about my poor Texans? Are you kidding me?
They're not here. Next year, when they're here,
you know how tough it is to be a Texans fan?
You know how tough it's been to be a Bengals fan?
You know how fun it's been to be a Patriots fan?
No one likes you.
I figured I'd get that reaction. Let's go, Mac.
All right. Well, there you have it. This is our Poke Report Super Bowl show. I'm Alex Dusky, and I'm joined by Asa Lucas and Jace Andrews. Thank you so much for watching today. Go turn your TVs over to the Super Bowl, and let's hope for a great game.
This is the money we could save by switching from fresh packed California crushed tomatoes to concentrated tomato paste.
I want to show you something too. I got a new door. Go take a look at it.
Nobody uses better ingredients than Little Caesars, like fresh packed California crushed tomatoes. Pick up a large, deep dish for just $8.
Pizza.
Introducing Lincoln Black Label at Diffie Ford Lincoln. Designed to impress those with impeccable taste, Lincoln Black Label features a collection of interior themes and a host of exclusive membership privileges inspired by attention to detail and a love of automobiles. With Lincoln Black Label, you'll enjoy an extended premium maintenance plan that covers wear items or even remote vehicle delivery. Lincoln Black Label isn't about luxury ownership, it's about membership. Lincoln Black Label, exclusively at Diffie